On this week's episode, we discuss Batista's heel turn, the breakup of The Shield, John Cena's career winding down, and did the Chicago crowd really hijack Raw? All of this and more, now on Byte That. Hello everybody and welcome to the 28th episode of Byte That, the semi-somewhat, maybe, international professional wrestling podcast where we bring you the ups and downs of that which we love, which is the world of professional wrestling. My name is Ryan McNulty. I hail from the deepest, darkest depths of Boston, Massachusetts, and alongside with me today is my faithful Canadian companion from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Keith Poshik.
The most faithful.
And now, unfortunately this week, Juan is on, I guess you could say, a sabbatical.
He had a really bad run-in with a tube of KY jelly, a velociraptor, and Luther Reigns. I'll leave that to the imagination.
Yes, it sounds like something out of a Bond movie, or a MacGyver, I should say. But anyway, Juan should be back next week. Anyway, before we get started, just a few quick reminders. Follow us on our Twitter. That's at ByteThatCast. That's Byte with a Y. And as well, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. In fact, last week we just put up a review of the WWE Network, and we also recently put up a review of NXT Arrival. A lot of good stuff there. And also, we've got our WrestleMania Overload. So we're putting stuff, all WrestleMania related stuff up. So much stuff, all leading up to WrestleMania 30. Stuff is the key word there.
Much stuff.
Anyway, we're going to move right into Monday Night Raw because we had quite a rowdy Monday Night Raw in Chicago, Illinois at the Allstate Arena. And I think one thing that most people are talking about is how they opened the show. And they opened the show with Paul Heyman coming out to CM Punk's music. And let's just talk about that. What were your feelings on that, Keith?
Well, before Paul Heyman came out, it was just... I damn near pooped myself. Like, there was rumors circulating all weekend about Dave Meltzer said that Punk, there's a chance that he might be at Raw. And then they start out with the show with Cult of Personality. And you're thinking like, oh God, is he back? Is he back? And then Paul Heyman decides to come out. It was a very Paul Heyman trolly thing to do. Yeah. Definitely. He, like I tweeted during the show, he is a glutton for heat. And you had to think, as soon as the music hit right at the start of Raw, I was like, there is no way that Punk's coming out this early. So I was completely expecting Bad News Barrett. I was just sitting there waiting, expecting it to be him. But it was better that it was Paul Heyman. It's more fitting. And he just sat in the ring. He did the Indian style sitting to copy Punk's promos, the way he cut the promos. It was just overall really well done. Yeah, and I mean, leave it to Paul Heyman to take this whole CM Punk situation and build it into the angle that's going on with him and Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker, how he blamed everybody and like the whole WWE universe for the whole CM Punk declining thing, and it all started at when they lost to The Undertaker. It just was a nice full circle thing that I strongly believe that only Paul Heyman could pull off.
No, that was absolutely excellent. He was taking, this real life scenario, this thing that is going on outside of kayfabe, and he was able to actually fit it into the kayfabe storyline that is going on now. So it was just masterfully done. And the reason they did this was to sort of calm this Chicago crowd that's supposed to be hijacking hijacking Monday Night Raw. They can't go that far.
Did it really calm them down, though? Like, it kind of really you kind of threw blood where the sharks were, because it kind of set up a platform where they were chanting CM Punk all night, which they kind of did.
Well, before we jump immediather into that, we got to talk about CM Punk himself and why those chants are they're in vain, really, if you think about it.
How so?
Well, in the way that, yes, the Chicago crowd wants to see CM Punk, clearly. I mean, there's CM Punk chants at least once every Raw since he's left, basically. But it really doesn't make sense to me because Punk
left on his own. Yes, maybe things WWE did caused him to leave, but Punk is still the one that left. WWE, I would assume, would love to have him back. So what's the point? There was if you think back to the "We Want Matt" chants for Matt Hardy way back in 2005, I think.
Yeah. That's a completely different scenario,
exactly.
though.
What I'm saying, that when they chanted that every show, there was actually a purpose, because WWE fired him. So that was the fans saying, no, we want him back. And it worked. But this is a totally different scenario where you're chanting, it's like he walked out on you. Mm-hmm. So there's no point.
See, that's kind of where this becomes a weird fuzzy thing, because you could say he walked out on the people, you could say he walked out on the WWE, and I don't know. It's like when you think about the whole CM Punk situation, and I think you could really, I don't know how to word this, but there was a quote from way back in the day where he's like, I can't do change from my couch in Chicago. And then he became the champion. All that stuff happened and nothing really changed. Like, is like this whole walking out thing just kind of proof that the WWE will never change. And it's just going to be like this constant cycle of things repeating.
I guess as a small aside is one reason, I mean, I'm a big CM Punk fan, but I'm kind of not siding with him on this issue. I'm usually someone who sides with the worker over, the corporate overlord. But in this situation, as much as Punk's burnt out, there are other ways to go about this. You don't just walk away. You have a contract. You fulfill your contract. If he wants to, I know he's not the type of guy to just go through the motions and phone it in, but if you're that burnt out and you just phone it in all the way to the end of your contract, I would almost have more respect for him. I know that's not the type of guy he is, but you have a contract, you fulfill it. If you want to try and, lighten up your schedule, talk to them or whatever, I don't know how hard it is to do. Apparently it's not that easy, but the guy's got some sway.
Yeah, but think about the other side of that coin where, like, let's say CM Punk did fulfill the rest of his contract, went on to WrestleMania, and ended up losing to Triple H. What would that really prove? Like, that would be potentially CM Punk's last WrestleMania match. That's how he's going out, jobbing to Triple H? Part of me kind of gets why he
doesn't
left.
care. He said he's burnt out and he doesn't care anymore. In that Wizard World interview he did probably several weeks before he left, he was just saying, they hand me something and I just do it, whatever. Because at that point he just did not care. So he was kind of phoning in at the time, even though he was still performing pretty well. I think it did show through that the passion wasn't there. He was still having good matches and everything, but you could just kind of tell his heart wasn't into it. But yeah. I don't know. I still say, even if it's not your best work, you fulfill your contract and and then you leave when it expires. Sure, it would be an unspectacular end, so I guess you could see why he walked out. But I still say you do what you signed up for.
Yeah, a fair point.
So this kind of leads into that Chicago crowd. Like we said, they're chanting CM Punk, but really, WWE would love nothing more than to bring him back. So there's no point, in my opinion. So let's give the rating on the overall hijacking, and I'm going to use big finger quotations.
Yeah.
Because this is audio and you need to know my motions of movement, and that makes no sense. But anyway, Chicago crowd. How well did they hijack Raw, Keith?
I don't think they hijacked Raw at all. I think that whole movement was a complete failure. Maybe it was because WWE, like, the WWE acknowledged the whole hijack Raw thing, and they did it through Daniel Bryan saying, like, we're gonna hijack Raw, rah! But minus a couple CM Punk chants, they didn't really quote-unquote hijack anything, except chant CM Punk the whole time.
Exactly. All it did really for me was just disrupt the show. The whole opening with CM Punk chants, whatever. And I mean, it was relevant then, but it got to the point where it's like, okay, we get it. Like, it's not that cool anymore that you keep chanting CM Punk. And I mean, it really goes to show how much a crowd can make or break a show, because obviously during the Shield versus the Wyatts match, they were really into that, and their chanting and all that definitely helped make the match feel better. But then during this Daniel Bryan Triple H thing, they were going a different way. But we'll get into that a little later. But basically, the CM Punk chants after the opening thing just really took away, and it just got really annoying for anyone that wasn't there. And they didn't change anything.
If like the gold standard for a crowd hijacking any sort of WWE event, I would say is the night after WrestleMania, my Slammy Award-winning Raw right there, and how the crowd legitimately hijacked that show, especially between Sheamus and Randy Orton. Now, conveniently, Sheamus had a match on this Raw, and that could have been like the place where you really hijack Raw, but that didn't happen at all. It was just a boring match. Like, yeah, they chanted like end this match and boring and all that, but hijack? No.
Yeah, and see, the key thing here is when the night after WrestleMania, when that crowd really took over and hijacked the show, it was fun. It was fun to watch. Yes, you were there. I can only imagine how fun it was. Me just watching, like, that was an amazing show, and that was something I wanted to keep talking about. Immediately after it, I was, I go on Reddit, Squared Circle, and I want to, I'm talking about it and discussing it and reading what everyone's saying, because it was such a fun show. But unfortunately, and Keith, I guess you're partially responsible for this, but unfortunately, we have seen this trend of crowds trying to sort of duplicate the magic of that night after WrestleMania. And it's not that fun to watch at all.
No, it's not.
It's like,
it's just it's often imitated, never repeated. It's just
or duplicated. That kind of goes better with the saying. Just saying.
Well, yeah. Oh, you're just saying. But yeah, it's just a bunch of people trying to capture that lightning in a bottle and just not being able to pull it off, and it comes off half-assed. Like, if you want to use an example directly, like, falling from it, Fandangoing, that thing died the week after,
Well, that was WWE's fault. They could have easily kept that going. Kept that going.
I mean, I think it's a half and half thing. Like, yeah, they really shit the bed on the Fandango thing. Like, oh, Cha Cha La 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 is number 6 on iTunes. It's a Fandango revolution. But the crowd just kind of died. Like, there wasn't any more interaction with it.
Well, first of all, that was a little too complicated, because like Daniel Bryan said about the yes chant, the reason it works is because it's one motion, one word, very easy to follow. The Fandangoing's a little more complicated, but it could have worked. All they had to do...
But there's no words. There's no words in Fandangoing.
You gotta go with the song.
Yeah,
you have to breathe with the A's. So you have to go with the song and everything, so it definitely is more complicated. But let's think about the fact that they could have just had Fandango go out there and say, you guys can't dance, you guys can't sing, stop doing this, I hate this, and then the crowd would do it. It's the whole reverse psychology thing with heels.
With Daniel Bryan, how he had yes, and then he started chanting no, telling people to stop saying yes, and then they would just chant yes louder and louder.
And see, that would have been a trend I would have been okay with continuing. One thing that's continued that was funny the first time and is just getting downright annoying at this point is the whole commentator chants that they do. The JBL, the Michael Cole. It was really funny that first time, but now it's just disruptive and it's annoying.
It was my favorite part of the night being there, but the random wrestler chants is something that really needs to stop. Like, do we really need to chant Randy Savage because we hate a match? No, we don't. It's just stupid at this point.
Yeah, if you want to chant Randy Savage during the Hall of Fame, like vignettes,
then do it.
Then do that, because you're actually voicing your opinion for something. Yeah, I guess what we're trying to say is, nowadays, some of these crowds, your crowd has started this trend of all these other crowds basically trying to get themselves over. It's not about the show anymore. It's about the crowd trying to be like, hey, look, we're on TV and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. So the crowds are trying to put themselves over now. Instead of complimenting the show, they're trying to steal the show. And it doesn't always work. It just makes the show less enjoyable to everybody else watching on TV. But hey, I mean, I guess you pay a ticket, do what you want, but come on.
Do you think in a way it's helped wrestling a bit too? Because now I'm sure the biggest fear backstage is, oh God, what if I go out there and they just shit all over my match now? So do you think that's helped like the whole performances step up, or?
Maybe it has forced, a lot of workers to kind of adapt to crowd reaction. Because the crowds, I mean, even though most of them are trying to just get themselves over with a lot of chants, I feel like the crowds are getting more hot and they're getting more into the show than they have in a long time. We don't have the rampant crowds of the Attitude Era right now, but I think they are definitely a lot hotter than they've been in a couple of years. And I think a lot of that has to do with that Raw after Mania, and also I think Daniel Bryan's Yes chant has sort of invigorated this energy that we haven't seen in a while, because I mean, Attitude Era had so many superstars, so I mean, we're finally seeing someone get a reaction that is close to the reactions that Austin and The Rock would get. So maybe this has sort of instilled this energy in crowds that hasn't been seen in a long time. It's also probably because the crowd more than ever is educated on things that go on, backstage. And now more than ever, they're voicing their opinions about that. I mean, we look at someone like Batista, where basically has been forced into a heel turn. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's 100% our fault. So good job on us. But yeah.
Yes. So anyway, I think it's about time for this week's...
Speaking of forced heel turns...
Tweet of the week!
All right, tweet of the week time. There's going to be no heel turns here. That was a swerve in wrestling terms. Ha 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 ha. So this week's tweet of the week is brought to you by probably one of my favorite Twitter accounts on Twitter, in complete honesty, and that's WWE Creative Humor at WWE Creative-ish. It's a parody Twitter account of the WWE Creative team. It's hilarious. If you don't follow it because it's the best. And this week's tweet of the week is, The Undertaker sent a message last week that the pen is mightier than the sword tattoo.
Tweet of the week!
Well, that was an excellent tweet of the week, Keith. Thank you again. Always a beautiful performance. And hey, remember, do you want to be on tweet of the week? I reminded you guys earlier, follow us on Twitter at ByteThatCast. We always follow back whoever follows us. And so you show up on our Twitter feed. Hey, if you get something funny and original, we might retweet it. And it also could be a tweet of the week. So we were talking about heel turns just before our amazing tweets. So Batista on SmackDown officially turned heel. Now, I actually did not have a chance to watch this segment.
Neither did I.
But it was very clear on Monday Night Raw that Batista is full-blown heel now. What do you think so far?
I don't care. See, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, we have two heels going into the main event of WrestleMania. They have to add a third person at this point, right? Or
we hope. I mean, please.
Because what? I don't get what they're doing. It doesn't make a lick of sense. Batista comes back to this lukewarm reaction, and then now he's fighting like the mega heel, this heel that you've been building up for damn near like since SummerSlam, Randy Orton. And it just feels like a fart in church at this point. It's just the worst.
And also the fact that in the interview he said he was making fun of the fans who like comic books and movies, or all they do is read comic books and watch movies. And it's
Yeah,
like, dude,
funny about
you're
that.
in a comic book movie this summer. So good job.
While we're shitting on Batista, there's a point that this really bothers me. So Batista wears the Gracie like tights when he comes out now, right? When has he done anything that somewhat resembles jujitsu inside of a ring? Like, he can barely do a spine buster without being completely gassed.
Apparently he's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu.
Doesn't show, let me tell you.
I actually just heard about that he actually does do jiu-jitsu. Yeah, so he's purple belt. Hey, that's kind of a big deal. I don't know.
It's better than me, so...
I did karate, and that was like the 4th or 5th belt, but I'm sure they have a very different order. Either way, this heel turn, as you said, brings us a definitive heel versus heel main event to WrestleMania 30.
Could it be the first time in history that that's happened?
But let's just let that sink in one more time.
Yeah, we're gonna have a dramatic pause for this one.
Yes.
There's a heel versus heel main event to WrestleMania 30.
A world heavyweight WWE. I screwed that up.
The first WWE World Heavyweight Championship match of WrestleMania is heel versus heel.
And it's WrestleMania 30.
The fuck.
Yes, exactly. Hey, WWE, you done fucked up. Because that just ain't right. And if they don't insert anybody into that match, then it is just going to get utterly pooped on by that crowd.
So let's put on the tinfoil hats for a second. Who could they add into that match at this point? Like, all of their big guys are in some sort of storyline. Like, John Cena's kind of going with the Wyatt family. And even if they added Cena, they'd still poop on the match because, oh, John Cena's another main event, lol. Daniel Bryan's potentially going against the Authority. CM Punk's gone. Like, who the hell do they add? Bo Dallas?
There's really nobody, unless, I mean, hell, at this point, I would be happy for John Cena to be in that match because they need somebody. At least some of the crowd would get behind Cena there. It's just, they do need to insert somebody, and everyone's talked about, do you put Daniel Bryan in that match? And just things I've read from other people who make great points that, okay, if it's going to be Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, is Triple H really going to let himself just be a stepping stone into the main event? Because first of all, if you do the Daniel Bryan versus Triple H match, you take away the mystery of who might win that by making it a stepping stone match to the Mania main event. I think it makes it far more obvious that Daniel Bryan's going to win. And also the fact that Triple H doesn't want himself to just be this minor obstacle at a WrestleMania. He wants this to be a high-profile match. So
because it's Triple H.
So, exactly. And also, I mean, hey, the fact that it's not a sort of this stepping stone match makes everyone fear that Triple H is going to beat Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. And that is a very real fear, and it's okay to believe that that's a possibility because it is a possibility.
Yeah, so what happens if Triple H wins that match? Like, does everything just light on fire at that point?
It's a mistake. A just outright mistake, and it certainly backs up the rumors of Triple H and all the horror stories. It just everything comes to life. Armageddon occurs.
It's a hurricane.
Yes,
it's goddamn.
The rapture happens. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse show up, and they're all
exactly.
It's
we're not talking Ric Flair. We're not talking Arn Anderson.
It would have to be those 4 horsemen.
All right, JJ Dillon just rolls into WrestleMania and then
if
just
it's Triple
destroys
H's apocalypse, it's that 4 horsemen faction.
True. Or maybe it's like the weird WCW one that involved Redacted and Ric Flair and.
You mean Steven Richards, right?
Right. That guy.
So this Daniel Bryan Triple H match, a lot of fans are upset that this match is going to happen and Daniel Bryan isn't in the main event. my thoughts on this is that I'm okay with this Daniel Bryan Triple H match. I'm okay with Daniel Bryan possibly winning the title at another pay-per-view. I think we are conditioned now at this point to always think that WrestleMania has to be the end game for everything. And I can accept that a big storyline can end at a different pay-per-view because I do think Daniel Bryan versus Triple H should happen. Triple H is the reason, storyline-wise and possibly backstage-wise, why Daniel Bryan lost the title right after he won it at SummerSlam. And he has been the big obstacle for Bryan at getting the title, so naturally it would make sense for this match to happen.
Totally, and a big storyline would still be ending at WrestleMania if it was Bryan versus Triple H. It would be the Daniel Bryan authority angle coming to an end, and then it would kind of usher in the Daniel Bryan WWE World Heavyweight Championship storyline, because, come on, Bryan has to win after Mania, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the guy is far too popular to not eventually get a title run. And like people have always said, the chase draws more than the title run. And that's clearly what's going on here. And I think they're just trying to milk that for all it's worth.
Yeah, I think people just want to see another Austin 316 era has begun moment at WrestleMania where Stone Cold holds up the belt at the end of the show, and then I guess Michael Cole would say something that would go into the annals of history. But instead we get Batista, Randy Orton.
Exactly. But I think it's a big deal if Daniel Bryan beats Triple H at WrestleMania.
Okay, here's a question. What if the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match doesn't end the show? What if Daniel Bryan Triple H ends the show?
That's a possibility. I really don't see at this point that the WWE World Heavyweight title match ends the show at all. I think it's already not going to be the last match. Unless they insert a third person, there is no way you end a show like that. Just absolutely no way.
I think I never even considered that until right now, but that seems like a totally realistic thing.
It really seems like we'd either get Daniel Bryan versus Triple H as the last match, or The Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar as the last match.
The only way that would be the last match is if Brock ends the streak, in my opinion. Like, yeah, this could be The Undertaker's last WrestleMania, but I can't see that being the last match.
Well, I think it is a possibility, but the more I think about it, the more I do feel like Daniel Bryan Triple H could end the show.
Because they could get everything that they want out of that. They could get, if Bryan, like if Triple H wins, that'll be even more of a firestorm. But let's say Bryan wins, they get that big moment with the show going off, or going off the air with Daniel Bryan. He's still in the WrestleMania main event. It's a way so everybody wins.
Exactly. I mean, this authority storyline has been the premier storyline since SummerSlam. So it's only natural that gets to end the show because that's been the most important storyline, going for, all the way back. It's been going on for months now.
It's the thread that's been, it's the thread that's been holding everything together, even though it's sucked a couple months since SummerSlam.
Exactly. So it does make sense. And I really do think that will end the show unless we see some drastic changes to the way the WrestleMania card is shaping up. I mean, we've got John Cena versus Bray Wyatt going on, and that's just doesn't seem like that would end the show either, even though Cena is the guy. He's definitely taken a back seat recently, so that's definitely not something I would see ending the show.
Are you getting the feeling the same way I am that Cena's career is coming to an end soon? Like, he's been just talking a little bit too much about this whole next generation thing lately.
It's a possibility, but I still think the guy's, the way I see it, I feel like the guy could go forever just because it seems like there is no end. But in a way, it does seem like he's winding down, and it really begs the question, is he sort of wrapping up his career? I mean, the guy is getting hurt a lot more frequently.
I think Wyatt made the perfect analogy this week on Raw when he talked about John Cena being that championship horse that kept winning matches and kept winning races, and then sooner or later the horse slows down, it starts getting hurt easier and easier, and then it just comes time to put it behind the barn. And I kind of think that time behind the barn is coming sooner than most people expect.
Probably. I mean, this dude, we think he's unbreakable, but he has been going strong, going pretty much full time aside from a couple of injuries for over a decade now.
And plus the injuries are coming sooner and sooner, like closer to each other. So.
Exactly. I mean, we've had, just since 2012, he's had 3 injuries that have forced him. Well, we don't know about this injury yet, but he's had 3 injuries. And I guess to clarify about his most recent injury, I guess the knee part is a work, but he might actually have either pulled his groin muscle or torn his groin muscle, something like that. There's no real confirmation on that, but it's clear that there is some sort of injury, because apparently at a house show he was working very gingerly, as they stated, because he is dealing with some sort of groin injury. So so this makes 3 injuries that have hindered his performance within less than 2 years. So I definitely do think he's slowing down, and I mean, he's only human or Superman, but
yeah. Maybe all that kicking out at 2 is finally catching up to him.
Yeah, exactly. And like we said, he's sort of taking this back seat now. Daniel Bryan is really getting more and more of that spotlight. And I think we're going to start to see John Cena slow down now. And that's probably especially because now they do have someone that can sort of fill that role, even though Daniel Bryan maybe isn't the face right now. He's definitely the number 1 baby face right now. So he can fill, at least on a WWE show level, not as a PR public image level. He can fulfill that WWE schedule as the number 1 guy.
Totally. I was just thinking about this, but I know this won't happen, but how amazing / interesting would it be if John Cena came like this close to beating Ric Flair's championship title reign record, and then just ended up like 1 short before he retired.
That's a definite possibility. I mean, he's not really the guy that needs the title anymore. How many title reigns does he have? Is it 13?
I think he's at 14. 14. Including like the trading back the World Heavyweight Championship and stuff like that. Yeah.
So he is very real close. Yeah. So that's 2 titles away. That could easily happen in a night.
No kidding.
So who knows? I hope he doesn't pass it, because Flair's title,
it should live forever.
His title reigns is just it's a legendary thing, and I don't think it should be surpassed. But I mean, if it was going to be anybody, it would be John Cena, because
totally
the guy can still go, and he only has to get 2 more.
How crazy is it that Triple H is never going to pass that? Like,
we all thought he would too.
Yeah, 10 years ago, we were all thinking, "Yep, this Triple H has to be the one to break this record."
How many did he end up with? 13 or something?
13, I believe, was the final number. And he's not going to win it again, right?
Because I remember way back when he was at 11 or something like that, and it seemed like he still had plenty left in the tank, and we were sure that he was going to surpass Ric Flair's record. But then he just started really slowing down and not really going for the title as much anymore, and this was when John Cena was really becoming the guy. So that didn't end up happening. So it's interesting.
Oh, wow.
We'll see if anyone ever comes close again. I honestly think they're getting more protective about who gets the title now that it's this unified belt. So John Cena may be possibly the last guy to really challenge Ric Flair's title reign record,
at least for a very long time.
Exactly, because I don't see WWE trading titles around constantly like a hot potato anymore. It could be a very long time before anyone challenges that. So to get right into another thing that happened on Monday Night Raw, earlier we were talking about the crowd reaction to the Shield versus the Wyatt family match. So let's actually get into the match itself.
God.
which was just utter chaos.
I could honestly watch The Shield versus the Wyatt family every day of the week for the rest of my life and die a happy man. Which is funny because there's a house show in Winnipeg this coming Friday, and that's on the card, and I'm very stoked for it.
That's definitely worth the price of admission alone.
Agreed.
That is really cool. I didn't even know that they were running that match on the house shows, but that is awesome. And I wish there was a house show going on here during this time because I would love to see that match live. But anyway, I think the person worth talking about the most in performance-wise and storyline-wise is Seth Rollins. I mean, first of all, when he just came in and was just absolutely on fire, you know, flipping out of a German suplex off the top rope and then diving
right
outside
and
one
center.
side of the ring.
Yeah.
He gets in the ring, dives out the other side of the ring. I mean, this guy was just on fire.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. Like, even us a couple weeks ago were talking about who's going to be like, who's going to draw the short straw when it comes to the end of the Shield. And it feels like Seth Rollins isn't going to be that guy anymore just from the last 2 weeks. Like, he's basically been crazy. He's been given tons of time to show off the immense ability we all know he has. And yeah, I think the last few weeks have done more for Seth Rollins' career than the whole run in the Shield, in my opinion.
I agree with that, definitely. I think Rollins has stood out in the past few weeks far more than he ever has before, and he definitely...
Almost more than Reigns, really, in the past couple weeks.
Yes, yeah, I mean, he's been the breakout star of both of these matches, and I think that we had our worries about, you know, who would not be doing well once the Shield breaks up, but I'm honestly not worried about any of them because they all bring something unique to the table that I think is going to help them succeed. And you know, they're not all going to shoot up to the main event right away, but I think that they have all sort of earned their keep, and I think they all sort of will find a place to stay on TV and to elevate their careers. So the actual storyline development we had was that Rollins, who we thought was sort of the middleman and the peacekeeper.
He was the architect, Muggle.
Yes, exactly. I've never heard them call him the architect before, but I guess he was.
That's a thing. Yeah.
What is he, like Ellen Page from Inception or something? But anyway,
I was gonna go with a Matrix joke there, but sure, you can roll with that.
Wait, were they called architects in Inception?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Or he's the dude in the room from the Matrix, whatever. The Colonel Sanders guy.
Yeah.
But so anyway, Rollins is the one who's the first to really walk away from the Shield, sort of. I don't think they're broken up, but he was the one who stepped away from the tag and walked away, you know, and he doesn't want to deal with this tension anymore. So I think this is their way of setting up a triple threat match between all three members of the Shield, because at some point you had to have Seth Rollins have some issue with the other two members.
Totally.
And how do you feel this went? Do you think this was effective?
I think it was effective. I think, like, Rollins didn't just go backstage. Rollins stood there on the ramp while Ambrose and Reigns got the crap beat out of them by a Wyatt family. It's just that whole standing there, and the crowd was even chanting at Rollins, like, get back in the ring, help them. So, yeah, I think it was super effective.
Just
like Pokemon.
Yeah, I was going to make the reference too.
Mm-hmm. Praise Lord Helix.
I agree. Twitch plays Pokemon. If you haven't started watching it yet,
what you doing with your life?
Exactly. Probably good things. But anyway, back to Rollins. I think this was effective. It was really cool to finally see Rollins take a stand and really insert himself into this whole Shield breakup angle. So now it's on, and it's only going to get more heated up from weeks to come.
Plus, really, did you see Seth Rollins being the first one to like create the fault line? Like, I'm pretty sure everybody thought it was going to be Ambrose and Reigns doing that.
And I think that's what made it so effective, is because it was an actual legitimate surprise for Rollins to break away. And that's why I think this is just going to continue to heat up. And I think that was a brilliant play because nobody really saw that coming. We're so trained to think, oh, you know, Ambrose is the one who's creating all the tension. He's the one that's going to, you know, walk away first. But they kind of swerved you, and they do it with Rollins. So very well done. So another thing that is definitely worth talking about this week is the WWE Network.
Oh, Jesus. Praise Lord WWE Network. Never mind Helix Fossil. It's the best.
So we put up a review of our initial first thoughts on the network the day after it came out. You can check that out if you want to hear our impressions of the layout. And, you know, I think I talk about the pre-show a little bit, that first Raw pre-show. So make sure to go over youtube.com/ByteThatCast and check that review out. But since then, since we've had a week to sort of digest this network, what are your feelings? What have you watched? You know, just your overall thoughts.
I'm in love with the network. There's countless hours at my fingertips, and I've been utilizing it every single chance I can. I've been going and watching little weird things, like I've fallen deep into watching like old episodes of Monday Night Raw. I went back and watched like the CM Punk promo on The Rock, like that whole "your arms are too short to box with God" promo. Went back and watched that. Went back and watched the Daniel Bryan join the Wyatt family, like reliving that moment. Just a bunch of little things like that. I fell down a hole and started watching some old Eastern Championship wrestling, and man, that's something special. if you have never saw old ECW back in the day before it was Extreme, treat yourself, because a young Sandman that's like clean cut is something that everybody needs to see.
Wow, I did not even know that Sandman was ever clean cut, so that is a shock to me. I have not got a chance to watch a whole lot of stuff yet, but I did watch WrestleMania 10, and that's actually part of our WrestleMania Overload. So I will actually have a review up this week of WrestleMania 10. Yes, so make sure to check that out. I'm just going to plug the YouTube again, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Subscribe, and you'll get all of our content. Anyway, back to the network. So that was one of the things I watched, as well as I obviously watched NXT Arrival. And now we did our review on Arrival as well. And there was some obvious streaming issues. So we've actually learned that, as I'm recording this, it's actually tonight, WWE is streaming Main Event. And the reason that they're doing this, and they might be doing it a few weeks going forward as well, is because they want to test the live streaming again, because they have concerns about WrestleMania and how that's going to go over when you're obviously going to have thousands more people watching it. So how did your NXT stream go?
It was terrible. Juan mentioned it in our review, but there's a new hate for Adrian Neville that flows through my body just because the stream kept cutting out in the middle of a Adrian Neville video package. So it would go fine for a minute, and then it would cut out. It would go back to that package and do that. I basically missed the whole main event. And as far as those WrestleMania concerns go, I think they're 100% real. Imagine if that happens in the middle of WrestleMania 30. You're just watching, I don't know, let's say you're watching the triple threat match versus the Shield, and boom, everything goes down. Your big selling point of the WWE Network, the first pay-per-view, crashes on the WWE Network. I think that could be a goddamn disaster.
And see, unfortunately for you, you did not get the best glitch on the NXT Arrival pay-per-view.
Which
was that someone had it where every time they refreshed, it would cut to what was going on live. And then immediately, like about 5 seconds in, it would cut to Tyler Breeze doing the duck face zoom in the ring. It was hilarious. Somebody posted a video of it on Squared Circle. It was hysterical.
I wish.
They refreshed it 3 or 4 times, and every single time it was perfectly timed for Tyler Breeze's
Is that a glitch,
zoom.
though, or is that just greatness?
It's kind of amazing. The only trouble I had was during the whole Alexander Rusev run-in during a match. It was lagging there, but then before the main event, mine fixed it. So I was very fortunate in that case. But I do think there are some very real concerns for this WrestleMania stream. You know, you gotta think going in that there's going to be issues. So
For sure.
is this the time where you have to think, like, as much as you hate it, the WWE Network's out, but is this the time where if you really want to enjoy WrestleMania 30, you just gotta open up the wallet one more time and shell out that $60 to $70? I think, is WrestleMania 70 or is it 60?
Yeah, it's $10 more, so that it would be $70.
Yeah, so is it the time where if you want it to go perfectly well, you gotta shell out those $70 one more time and then hope by Extreme Rules and forward that everything is hashed out?
Honestly, I don't see myself doing it, but like the WWE Network's a new technology. You're going to have to go through the kinks and all that stuff. The great thing of like, yeah, there was all these hiccups with NXT Arrival, but it was available immediately after on the WWE Network. Like, yeah, we might have to see a couple matches at WrestleMania a little later, but it'll still be there. It'll suck at the time, but it'll suck for like a half an hour.
See,
Tops.
from what I heard is, because right now Elimination Chamber is not on the network.
No, it starts at the Royal Rumble is the earliest.
Yes, and apparently those 2 pay-per-views, they wait 30 days or something and then they post them. But from what I've heard is that WrestleMania and beyond is the next day or even several hours afterwards, the pay-per-view will be right up there. But the problem is with a pay-per-view like WrestleMania, you really want to get the full experience while it actually airs. Fortunately for me, I think I'm going to be watching it from a restaurant, you know, a bar that's going to be
What
showing.
kind of
maybe-
restaurant?
It might be Hooters. Okay, it's totally Hooters.
Real classy. Real
But
classy.
hey, not a lot of places in my area show WrestleMania. There's, you know, I know there's some people have locations like in New York and stuff where there's several bars showing the pay-per-view. Not around here for me. So
To be fair, there's a movie theater here in Winnipeg that has all of the WWE pay-per-views, so that's probably where I'll be for WrestleMania.
yeah, see, that's a good idea. So what I'm advising is anyone who's listening who's got the network, just be ready for it to not be 100% reliable or find other means to watch it. You know, whether it's your local bar or you shell out $70, you know, split it with a couple friends. But basically, be advised, because if they're having issues with a small NXT show, then they're gonna be having issues with WrestleMania without a doubt. I mean, it's almost no question that there'll be issues. And there'll definitely be reviews of those
Oh,
issues.
totally.
All right, so the last thing I'd like to talk about today is the WWE Hall of Fame and its latest induction. So, did you think it was going to be The Undertaker at first? Be honest.
No, I knew it was Paul Bearer immediately. It's obvious. I mean, rest in peace, Paul Bearer. This is going to sound horrible, but you died a little too late for the Hall of Fame last year, so it was obvious that he was going in this year.
Yes, I was actually totally faked out because I was half paying attention at the time and I hear the Hall of Fame thing and then the gong and I'm like, what? Really? I totally expected Undertaker to get inducted after he retired. But yes, no, it was Paul Bearer. Definitely a well-deserved induction. It's unfortunate, you know, we weren't able to see his actual induction speech. I would have loved to hear that. And you gotta think, is The Undertaker going to induct him? I mean, he usually actually skips out on the Hall of Fame ceremony because he is so dedicated to his character.
They're so protective of the Undertaker character that he doesn't show up at the Hall of Fame in a suit and tie, but realistically, who else inducts Paul Bearer into the Hall of Fame?
Exactly. I mean, it just wouldn't be the same if it was Kane or someone else. Even though I think I'd still be okay with it, but I really feel like it has to be The Undertaker. And you know what? If The Undertaker can wear hoodies in the Triple H DVD, then he can do a Hall of Fame induction speech. And
That's
I really
a fair
think The
point.
Undertaker...
I forgot The Undertaker was in that one.
And if The Undertaker... I think he would want to do it. I mean, this is a guy who really helped elevate his career, and I'm sure, you know, he has the utmost respect for, and I think he would make an exception for the Hall of Fame ceremony, and he would do the honors, and I really hope so.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that'll wrap it up for this week's edition of Byte That Cast. We want to thank you guys for tuning in, and hey, remember to follow us on Twitter at Byte That Cast. We always tweet during Raw, and we tweet during pay-per-views, so make sure to follow us, and hey, remember, Tweet of the Week. You might be able to get on there. It could be you.
Ooh.
And don't forget about our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Make sure to subscribe. We are doing our WrestleMania overload during WrestleMania season, so make sure to subscribe because we are putting up content every week. We're going to have our WrestleMania Top 10. We're going to have Total Divas reviews. We're going to review the Scooby-Doo movie that's about WrestleMania, and as well as our classic WrestleMania reviews of WrestleMania 10 and 20. So once again, don't forget to subscribe to YouTube, follow us on Twitter. Thanks again for tuning in. We're also on iTunes and Stitcher. I almost forgot that. Search Byte That. We will see you next week.